And welcome everybody for joining us for the second edition of the Canadian Home Studio Tour. My name is Joel from Folk Music Ontario. Before we begin, I'd like to thank a few of our partners that help these events go on: Canadian Heritage, Factor, the Ontario Arts Council, Ontario Creates, and SoCan. I'm very pleased to be able to host this edition and to be here with artist Blue Wale. I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction, my friend. Born Trinidad and Tobago, raised in Ottawa, cool. Currently residing just down the road in Toronto. Who's a top 4 finalist on CBC Searchlight, has appeared in CBC First Play, and is also a HoneyJam 2017 alumni. Blue Wale started the year 2019 as a top 2 finalist. Wow, this is awesome. Popularly nationally televised TV show The Launch, top 2. Look out, Blue Wale. And later headlined the Academy Presents at the Drake Underground. Before I forget, here in Ottawa, we broadcast from the traditional and unceded lands of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples. Back to you, Blue Wale. You were in Ottawa. You created music, you moved on to TO, and despite a pandemic, you still had a pretty busy 2020. Tell us a bit about what you were doing and how you were doing it before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, honestly, I've always been like a busy person, because music aside, I also do hair and makeup, and I'm getting into designing. So I've always had my hands full. So the pandemic was a slight bit of a blessing for me, because it allowed me to take a little bit of time off work. I work at CTV doing mostly hair for the TV host. So I really got to work on music and my craft, and exploring more about who I am as an artist. I even changed my name from Will to Blue Wale. As you can see, like, it's just everywhere. And then it, got me to like extend a little bit more on my writing skills, do some collaborations. And last year, honestly, it was crazy because I released the most amount of content that I've ever released in years before. So it was really nice, the break, so I could focus on being an artist. And there was a lot of live stream shows. I even got the opportunity to do one of the drive-through shows, which was freezing, but like I was like, this is so cool, like what? And then instead of clapping, you hear honking. So it was definitely different, but grateful for every opportunity.
It's we did what we had to do in the past year, you know what I mean? But let's talk a bit about your recording process. So prior, like, you had a lot more time in 2020, but prior to the pandemic and everything shutting down, you had released some tunes. Were you doing a lot of that from home, or were you doing kind of a studio type of arrangement? How do you typically record before isolation hit?
So before isolation, I actually have my MacBook, and I've had an interface and headphones, mic for a long time. So I just have the basic programs. I really just use GarageBand to do demos and quick ideas, send it to the producers I was working with, and then I'd either go to their studio or we'd go to a studio like Lynx, and then really get the final version done, and that was it. But coming into 2020, right before the pandemic, I had the idea of, really getting my gear together and upgrading the DAW I was using and everything like that. And then when it hit, I was like, well, I was gonna do this anyways. So I got myself some Yamaha speakers. I got a keyboard that I'm still learning how to use. I got a guitar that I haven't touched yet. I just wanted everything. I was like, you are going to learn this. And then I got Logic, which is very similar to GarageBand. Just obviously a whole bunch more plugins that you could get with it. But it's a great starter moving on from GarageBand. So then I started dabbling in a few things, slightly mixing, but I'm not an engineer. So just enough for me to be like, okay, this sounds good. I can send this out. Let me see what the producer or whoever else needs to listen to it, like how it sounds, right? So yeah, before the pandemic, I already planned on upgrading my studio anyways, because I'm just that type of person that wants to be more hands-on with my stuff. So it was already in the plans, but with the pandemic, I got the stuff, and then it allowed me to sit down with it and just interact and learn a little bit more. And thank God for YouTube, because you could just learn everything on there. And I do have a producer friend that I also live with, so very helpful as well, producer engineer.
Well, that's a nice point, because I was just going to ask you, like, sort of leading into this, like, you're thinking, okay, I've got GarageBand, I got my Mac, I know what I'm doing here, I've got this sort of ins and outs figured out. But when you wanted to upgrade, you leaned on, obviously, YouTube, your producer friend. Who else within, or like where else within the community did you sort of reach out to?
Stuff that I've seen, like going into different studios as well too, right? And I would ask my other artist friends, actually, like, what do you think of this? Do you have these speakers? Do you have these headphones? Do you have this interface? How do you find it works? The next thing that and right now I have the Shure mic, and I'm looking into getting a more equipped mic that's better for my voice, because writer, singer, you focus on the music, right? And then when you get to the technical stuff, you're like, oh wow, there's like a mic that will sound better with my voice. I was like, oh, I didn't even clue into that, And it's kind of like the guitar, there's guitars, like certain ones fit your fingers better. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but this one I was like, oh, I don't even know how to play, but you could already feel by touching it. You're like, okay, maybe I'll get a better one. That's, that I can maneuver a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, we learn as we go, as it were. But like that also leads into another question. So you mentioned that, like, you're a singer, you're a songwriter. When you're collaborating with others, maybe for getting beats or for getting the instrumentation underneath the song itself, how's that changed in the pandemic? Have you been able to do like the email to files thing, or how are you working with people?
Yeah, so a lot of it, I tried the Zoom aspect of it, and I didn't, because you could share each other's screens and stuff like that, but it's just more difficult, and sometimes there's a delay or the internet here and there, and then so it's a lot of back and forth, and a lot of the times I like to write by myself, and if the other person is collabing with me, it's a back and forth email type of thing. Do you like this idea? Call them on the phone, or take a voice note or something and send it to them, and then we'll just go from there. So the process has kind of stayed the same. Obviously, the fact, because people are busy with work, right? So it would have been the same thing sending emails back and forth had there not been a pandemic. Obviously, we do more in-person writing. So it hasn't been that hard at all. Yes, similar process.
Well, I mean, we're all going to be experts at the end of it, right? We're all experts.
Exactly.
Now. You very recently released a new song and music video, One Job. I checked it out. I don't know where the beach is, but it looks like a great beach.
The Bluffs.
At a cold time. The Bluffs, okay.
Yes.
It looks like a cold time of year. When was that song recorded? And maybe just take us through, like, from concept to now in a pandemic, I assume, filming a video. What kind of things did you have to do different?
For sure. Luckily for that video, when we did shoot it, I think it was around end of October, beginning of November. It was right before, I think, the millionth lockdown, So I had a little bit of a gap. And I had planned it like 2 months ahead of time. And thank God it was like right before the shutdown. So it was when you were still allowed the 10 people. So as you can see in the video, I have a few people there. It looks like there's a surprise birthday party / proposal that I get proposed to. So we have about 7 people, and then the director, and then the videographer. So we were still within the guidelines. It was shot in my house because it was hard to rent places out as well. And then the Bluffs, of course, because it's an open area. So like just considering all the rules and guidelines that are in play with COVID, we were definitely taking all of the measures, make sure no one had COVID, hand sanitizer and everything on set. And it was freezing. It was freezing that day. I was praying to the gods that there would be no snow, no rain. End of October, November, we're coming into winter season. So I was like, please. And I'm near the water, and I was wearing like the thinnest little like black jumpsuit, and the jacket was so thin. But as an artist, you go for the aesthetic, than staying warm. But I was like, oh my God. And it was raining, and I was like, you know what? It would be really cool. I did think about rain. I was like, but not the coldness. I was like, if it rains, it'll be perfect to capture on camera, because it's a real like heartfelt song, And I was like, if it rains, if I cry, you're thinking about all these things. It did rain. but it was freezing at the same time. And I, at some point we were done filming and I came out of the car because it looked like a blizzard. And I was like, this will be perfect if we catch this on camera. So I was like, I'm going to risk my life for this. And it almost blew away, but it was well worth the shot for sure, for sure.
Yeah, it looks great and it's fun. And like, I mean, we're going to move on from videos, but I like how, you know, 2020 meant that we had just kind of toned down our ideas. The videos can't be as, whoa, but nonetheless, people got real creative and these shots look amazing. I encourage everyone listening and listening to the recording of this later to go check out that video. Also, I'm going to start talking about your actual gear now. Anyone listening, if you got questions or comments, you want us to expand on something, just toss them in the chat there. We'll have a Q&A later. But let's talk about your DAW, my friend. You said you were using GarageBand on a Mac. Did you stick with the Mac for the DAW? Like,
I did stick with the Mac. My Mac is a 2015 Air. And it's still alive and still working. So I had to do this because, you know, there's not a lot of space on Macs, especially the Air. So what I did is I have an external hard drive. I used to have the Passport and they're not the greatest. So I had a lot of files on it and then it just decided to stop working. So it wasn't anything that I was dying to hold on to, but still my files, you know, that I've collected over the years. So then I got a Seagate, which is way better. It's 2 terabytes, holds a lot of stuff. So what I did when I was moving on from GarageBand was I downloaded Logic Pro, and then I transferred it onto the hard drive. So now everything is on the Seagate's a very good hard drive. So now everything is on there. So I actually don't take up room on my Air, so it still runs properly, and I'm able to record as many demos as I want and just save it on the actual hard drive. So yes, I do still have that Air. It needs to be upgraded, but it's held me down for quite some time.
Well, it's tried and true, right, my friend? Like, if it works, it works. The DAW itself, now often, like, I've heard of people experiencing like they're trying to collaborate, but their DAWs might not work well together. Like they're trying to export stems to send to their friends so they can also add on to the song. How's the compatibility with the program you use?
It's actually not too bad, and honestly, I find a lot of artists actually use Logic because lots of people have Macs, and a lot of people who started recording themselves would have started on GarageBand, and they just decide to transfer to Logic because they're so similar. You know what I mean? The shortcuts are very similar. The whole program is very similar. So there's not a lot of relearning that you have to do unless you're downloading new inputs and stuff like that, right? So the compatibility has been great so far.
That's good. I'm checking the Q&A. What is a stem? Oh, anonymous attendee, thank you for asking that. So if you're using a digital audio workstation, you can either export the full file of everything you worked on or all of the different channels, the vocals, the keys, the beats, etc. So if you export the stems, you may be able to open them in another program.
But again, YouTube is good for that as well too. You could find, you know, like, how do you export Logic to turn it into Fruity Loops? Like, very helpful.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you want to learn in some kind of program. 12-year-old on YouTube has figured it out for you.
Exactly.
We'll show you
it's there.
So let's talk about then learning the keys, my friend. So I see you've got your keyboard right there.
Yes.
So what are you adding, like when you're songwriting, let's say? Like, where do you start? Do you start with the lyrics in the head? Do you start with a beat? Do you start on the keys? Where are you when you're songwriting?
So I said like earlier, I'm still learning the keys. So usually what I do, I've either gotten a beat or some sort of instrumental from a producer. And I'll start by, I like to jump on the mic right away. I'm not very good at writing my words down right away. I'm just like, I don't like to sit there for hours. I'm like, let me just jump on the mic and see how the song makes me feel. A lot of the times I tell myself, if I, sometimes the instrumentation like hits you right away. So if I could picture a video for that instrumental, then I'm like, okay, I'm writing to it, because I'm a very visual person as well. So I'll jump on the mic and I'll do some humming and some melodies, and then I will go to the words, or sometimes the words will come right away. Sometimes I'm not even in the studio. I am downstairs washing the dishes, and I literally will take my hands out of water, grab my phone from my back pocket, and be like, da 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 da, you know, notepad. Inspiration comes from everywhere at any moment, and you never know when it comes, so you always have to be ready, you know. So yeah, I would say that my writing process is always different. Sometimes it's the beat first and getting melodies and words to it. Sometimes it's an idea or a melody without the instrumental, and then I'll go find something that sounds similar to what I had in my head. Sometimes if I'm looking to write something very, very specific and I don't have the beat yet, I will actually go on YouTube again. It's so great. And I will be like, okay, I'm looking for acoustic guitar or a sad type of piano feel, or a very upbeat, like something like Afrobeat or pop R&B. And if it sounds like what I had in my head, I'll start writing to it. Then I will take it to my producer and be like, how can we make this our own? You know? Yeah, ideas from everywhere.
Art is great, isn't it? I also see a bunch of sound diffusers that you have on the wall, my friend, and they're blue and they're pokey. Where did you get those? And how did you figure out where to put them in that room? That's an odd shaped room that you're in.
Yeah, it's like, this is like half of my bedroom. I have like a little loft type of setup. You go upstairs, my bedroom. So it's like a little bit of a half circle L thing. So basically, from going to studios and asking friends, I know that, you know, if you want the sound. So my mic is over here. So I'm in that corner over here, and I already have this for it, but for like the sound that's going to extend above it, because I want the best sound possible. So I put the foam behind it. And then if you look at my speaker is right, one is here and one is on the other side. So if you look closely at the window, you'll see that I put foams between where the back of the speaker is as well too. So it deflects that sound as well too. My roof, I'm actually trying to put some up there as well too. So when I get a chance, there'll definitely be some up there as well.
Where'd you pick up that foam for people who might be wanting to look at it?
I got it from Amazon, guys. Amazon is your best friend. I think it was a pack of, I may have ordered 2 or 3 packs. I still have some left over that I still need to place, but quote me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like 24 for like $30 or $40, which is not bad. Not so bad at all.
Not so bad at all. Diffuse your room for $30. Yes. You heard it here.
And obviously, if you have a smaller space, like it's you know, even cheaper for you.
So you've got the diffusers, you've got those speakers as well. It's important to have that monitor speaker as well as some nice headphones, as I've got some here. You know. When you were choosy, like you mentioned, talking to friends as well, did you end up trying a few or like getting your ear in a few before choosing the ones you wanted? What was that process like?
Yeah, I actually sat with some of my friends that are artists and producers, and a lot of them have the KRKs. And these are the Yamaha HS5. So it was either I'm going to get KRKs or the Yamahas. And it just came down to which one I was tallying up. I was like, okay, 5 people voted for this one, 4 people voted for this one. Okay, I'm going to get these ones. And it's going to be more of a trial and error, right? You also don't want to break the bank as well too, right? So these give me pretty good sound. And it came with affordability as well too, you know? And like, I don't really plan on doing that much mixing, and I'm not really an engineer. So these work for me as a singer-songwriter.
It's important. I'd say it's important to listen to quite a few because like we all make different stuff, obviously, but we also all have a sound that we're looking for.
Yes.
And just because your buddy likes that speaker doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yes, exactly. And that's why it's good to, if you're not sure, do your research and ask more than 1 or 2 people, especially people that have different speakers as well.
You mentioned mixing and like what you can do, what you can't do. Let's talk about that. So you're able to record your ideas, you're able to add a bit of a beat. What point do you say, okay, I've done what I can with these files, I'm moving on and send it to so-and-so?
So I will drag the beat in, I'll record. I will do a little bit of mixing with the inputs that I have bought for it, and I'll even cut it up a little bit, and I'm able to export stems. And that's where, and then, so I'm able to pretty much do everything and get a rough mix, or at least explain how I want it to sound. And then I'll send it off to get mixed and mastered. So I'm able to get it to a pretty good point.
Cool. And like, you know, you can probably just get better at it as we go. But
exactly.
I mean, people do go to school for a long time to get really good at that too. So.
Exactly.
Now, TO is quite a bit bigger than Ottawa, obviously. What's the community like there as far as finding people online, or I guess working in normal times as well, to work with studio-wise?
I have a few friends in Ottawa who actually own studios, so that's the benefit. So when I go back home, I'm just like, hey, I'm for a studio, you know. Lots. I feel like all my friends are artists, so I just know a whole bunch of them in Ottawa as well. Some of them have their own at-home studios, and others just will go to studios. So the community, I would say, even though Ottawa is pretty small, the community of artists is still big. And there's a huge variety. And I think a lot of people who don't know Ottawa or they're not from there wouldn't really necessarily think that or know that. So there's a bit of a surprise over there.
I like it when people talk awesome about Ottawa, because yes, you're right. There's a lot of talent here, a lot of art, a lot of people making it. And you know what 2020 might have done for all of us is finding pockets of art that people didn't know about, because now we're all online and out there. Let's talk about what you got going on right now. Maybe a sneak peek of sorts. So like, what are you working on at the moment? And whereabouts in the process are you?
So right now I've just, it's weird because I always start off the year with a really, really sad song. I'm just noticing that with myself about how I need to be loved or something like that. I'm like, why do you have to be so emotional? But you know, it's January, it's gloomy, and you feel how you feel and you can't help how you feel, right? So what I'm working right now is, I don't want to give too much away, but it is a 3-piece EP type of thing, 3 EPs to be specific. And they go, ever since I changed my name, I wanted to also narrow down like how I brand things and market things and how I present things to the audience. So I really wanted to play on my name and the color. So right now it's not final, but right now I'm thinking of 3 EPs, about 4 to 5 songs each. And it's based off color. So the first one would be Maya, and that's a shade of blue. It's a light blue, similar to like what I'm wearing right now. And it's more of the sad, emotional, healing, sort of phase. The next one, is called Cobalt, and it's more like, and it's a darker blue, more so along the lines of navy-ish. But I'm a badass. Like, I got over it. You know, I got this. I worked hard for this. And then the last one would be Azure, all shades of blue. This is a mix of a light blue and a dark blue, and that's finding balance. So that's what I'm working on right now. So I'm still in the process of collecting the sounds that I want, and I'm trying to make it more acoustic, guitar based. Just try to capture my own sound and find who is Blue Will, aside from me just slapping a color on a project and calling it whatever, you know. I really want to establish who I am and who I am in each project that I deliver, and really deliver the emotion that goes with that specific color. Yeah, so that is what I'm doing right now.
Sounds like a fun project. Yes. Okay, we will be watching out for it. I'm going to talk now about the energy one would bring into the studio. So like when I'm recording, and I'm recording different types of music than you, it's kind of like folkish country stuff, but like I tend to draw on, you know, last time I was on stage, feeling that energy of a crowd. Like that's what I'm looking to bring to, you know, to the studio. we've not been on stages in quite some time.
Yeah.
How are you bringing that energy to recordings you're doing at home?
So actually, I have this set up right here. It's a little bit of an amp. And what I will do sometimes before, if I've just recorded a song, a little bit of a demo, I will turn on the beat and I will sing it live from here. So a little demo, it gives you that stage feel. Live. You hear the acoustic and really, really get into it and perform it. Because a lot of the times what I used to do pre-COVID was I would, I'm very notorious for writing a song and taking it on stage quite a few times. So I want to see how the audience reacts to it. Same with one job that I just released. I've been singing that song for 2 years and just recorded it last summer and just released it this year. So I always want to see how the audience will react to it. So a lot of the songs that I release, my fans already know all the words because they're like, you've been hearing this. So when it's time to release, you know, people are like, yes, it's released. And you'll know if it's a good song or not, depending on how the audience reacts to it. Because it's not always your friends or family in the crowd, right? You get a vast amount of people in there, and you know, you could feel how it works. But yes, that's how I do it right now. Since I'm not on stage, I will just perform the hell out of it in my little room.
Close your eyes and pretend there is a stage. We are on the stage when our eyes are closed. Let's talk about the stage, my friend, because you were on some big ones. Second on The Voice. You're on like CBC Searchlight. What are you missing about the stage, most and foremost?
I think I'm really missing the audience interaction, and just it's so much different when you're on stage than recording, or when you're on live stream, because live stream is so distracting, especially if it's on Instagram or something and you're reading the comments and you're like trying to sing, but you're also trying to see the reactions. In real life on a stage, you could see how people are reacting, and they're singing the song and they're dancing or they're swaying, and they're just like, you know, and the applause. I miss the applause.
Yes.
Hearing like, yeah, you don't get that. Screaming.
Well, you did get the honks. You said you did the drive-in show and you got the honks.
Hey, you got the honks.
What was that like, hearing a bunch of honks?
Yes, that was different too. That I appreciate. You got the honks, yes. And a few people, they allowed a few people in front of the stage as well too. So that was great. So, because we were outside, right?
Well, now that we're talking about stages and how much we miss them, we will eventually get to go back to them. What do you think's going to be different about it? You think we're going to see more live streaming from, let's say, smaller venues or bigger ones?
Yeah, I think it'll be either or. You know, I think even with people getting vaccinated, people are still going to be afraid to get COVID or some other disease. So they're going to have to take some sort of precautions. I feel like there'll be more, not just drive-through, but outdoor events, which I happily applaud, especially if it's in summertime. You could get a bigger audience depending on the space. And not everybody's cramped up into one tiny space. I think that there will be a lot of live streaming. And at least you get the best of both worlds. If they allow a certain amount of like people to be there, if the venue holds like 300 and they're only allowing 100, they will, I bet you anything, they will live stream it. Because that's just the world that we're in right now.
I think we're going to see less bigger tours for a while. You know, people be like, maybe I'm just touring Ontario. Maybe I'm just touring New Brunswick, you know? Yeah.
And even when they do tour, probably smaller venues just to be safe, you know? Yeah, like limit the amount of people.
Oh my goodness. Things will be different.
I'll take what I can get. I'm ready to be back. I was like, that's fine. 5 people? Cool. No problem.
When you were so let's talk about, like, you were on a nationally televised event like The Voice. That must have been cool. When you were involved in that, did they set you up with any type of like mentorship programs of, hey, talk to so-and-so, they really know XYZ, talk to so-and-so, they really know XYZ? Any lessons you learned from that process?
Yeah, so it was the whole thing was very fast, very, very fast. You came in a group of 5, and they would eliminate people literally the second day you were there. 5 people come down to 2, and then I was lucky to be a top 2 finalist, and then you get the mentorship from there. Actually, you got the mentorship from before because they would put you with a live band, and then you had a musical director who would help you with your original songs and covers too. If you wanted to sing it one way, he would be like, okay, your voice sounds like this. How about you try it this way? So they were teaching you different ways to use your vocals that you may not have thought of before. And anyone who had never sang with a live band before, you got that opportunity live. Then after making it to top 2, then you get to meet the actual mentors. And my mentors for my episode were Nile Rodgers, BB Rexa, Maddie May, who's from a French singer from Montreal, and Scott Borchetta. So I was in the studio with them, and it was crazy because, you know, everyone has their own way of seeing you, and then their ideas of what you should sing, and then you have your own idea, but they presented you with the song. So what was difficult, I'll say, about that is the song wasn't mine, and what you had to do was grab the emotion of the song and make it your own, literally in an hour. Is what we were recording that in. So you had to be ready, and so it helped having that mentorship directly in the studio from BB Rex and Nile Rodgers, because they're so experienced. They're guiding you throughout the whole time. They're like, okay, and try this and sing it like that and put more oomph like that, and that really helps. And they set you up with a vocal coach as well, Lorraine Lawson, who was amazing. And I'd never really had vocal training before that, so that was great. And even after the show, I went to her intensive class, which really increased the level of my stage performance, so that I'm very thankful for as well.
That's a great opportunity, and a good reminder to sometimes just get around people that aren't in your own bubble. Maybe you'll learn something, you know?
Exactly. And it's, it would have been nice to win, but it's not always about winning. It's what can I take from this event, this opportunity that was given to me. So definitely grateful for that.
You mentioned playing with a live band. I was taking a look at some of your videos. You do have one video where you're doing a cover with someone on guitar, and it's lovely. When you're playing live, how do you typically like to do it? Do you have accompaniment with a band? Do you play to a track? How are you typically performing?
So it depends on the song that I'm doing, but a lot of the times for my tracks, if the song was originally made acoustically, I like to have a guitarist with me. So like I can pace the song, especially if it's in front of a live audience. I can really, I'm leading the song, with my other tracks that have more 808s and stuff like that. I play the beat, but I also like electric guitar. I love guitar. So I'll have a guitarist playing electric guitar with me to add more of it. Some of the live stream events that I've done and other events prior to COVID, some of the events coordinators have provided us with a band, which was really nice because then you get to hear how your song sounds just with a full band. And I love the feel of that too. And like I said, you lead instead of you trying to keep up with the actual music and the beat. So you don't have to worry about skipping, when you're on stage. If everything's too loud and it skips, the band is listening to you, following you. So I definitely love the live band aspect of things.
It's fun to collaborate too, right? Making music with friends.
Exactly.
So I will say, friends, we're coming up probably about 10 minutes away from the end Q&A. Get your questions ready if you have them. A lot of what we talked about here, Blue, is like just gear from it doesn't matter what type of music you want to make. Like these are all, pretty basic things that anyone can get behind. What would you say to anyone who's like really intimidated by either tech or setting up something at home for themselves?
I would say, take a deep breath, do your research, ask your friends who are artists or producers. They will give you, people are helpful, especially in this day and age. And don't worry about budget too much. Get something small. And like I said, I was on GarageBand when I started, which it comes with your Mac. It's free. And so you learn how to use the program at first. And then you can get a Bluetooth mic, which is cheap, that just goes right into your computer instead of an interface to start. Start small and work your way up, because the smaller you start, the more you can build on that. And then you just get more experience along the way. You get more confident. So it might be scary at first because you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm so used to having an engineer going to the studio. But the more efficient you are, when we get back to some sort of normality, you'll know what you're doing, and it'll be more of a collaboration with other artists and producers and engineers, rather than just you sitting there and always feeling timid. Because some people are the best singers and the best writers, but when we go into a studio setting where, you know, it feels like the producer or the engineer has more authority or experience, because they're the ones pressing record and cutting this here, and, you know, might be helping you with harmonies and like lining it all up. No, get your own experience, so that when you go in, you're confident, even when, you know, now you're in a studio setting where someone else is the engineer. You always want to be hands-on. Well, that definitely benefits you.
That's a good point. Like, the more you know, the more in control you are of your own art.
Exactly.
And it is yours. Like, you know, we don't control what comes out of us, but we do have some control of how it sounds afterwards.
Exactly.
I forgot to ask you about mastering. So how would you like, obviously that's not something everybody can do. And again, you go to school for quite some time. But do you have someone you typically work with for that as well? And are you able to just send them the files?
Yes. The room next door. That wasn't always the case. I have a few people that I do go to, and then you just, you know, when you get your first song mixed and mastered, you're like, you can typically tell if it sounds good or not, but you're not sure. You're just like, okay, when things get mixed, it sounds cleaner. When things get mastered, it sounds louder. You know what I mean? Made for radio and other stuff like that. So then you start picking apart. You're like, oh, but this can sound better here. Or I didn't sing it like that. There's too much autotune in that. So you just, you know, as you do more, you get more familiar with what your sound sounds like and how things are actually supposed to sound. Even if you don't know how to mix and master, you know what the outcome is supposed to sound like. So you know, trial and error with different people. Don't, you know, if you have a budget for it, don't cheap out on those things, because those are the things that could potentially like make or break, you know, your song, make it a hit, whatever it is. And then, yeah, so I go next door. Her name is Denise Dion for people in the comment. She does it all.
Oh my goodness. That's so fast to email too. Just right next door. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Or I, you know, just give her the hard drive.
I'd say, like, if you're not going to, like, it's a very good point. Don't cheap out on like mastering in particular. But as I'm seeing on your YouTube, because your YouTube's awesome, you're going to want to pay for like some high quality visuals if you're going to be making some stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The video, I'm friends with everybody. The videographer, you know, I've got a nice price going on. We are friends. He gets fed as well. So we kick it, we joke. And actually, the videographer himself was the one he does a lot as well too. Photography, videography, and he was the one mixing and mastering my stuff for the longest time. But then he got busier. So, you know, then you have to split it up. Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting the best result of everything. So let me give the music to someone else and you just concentrate on the videos. So I make sure like the whole project in its entirety sounds really good and looks visually pleasing.
I would say to anyone listening to, like, it doesn't matter where you are, there are people around you who really know cameras. And if you don't really know cameras, you contact them, or like Blue Whale has, feed them and become friends.
and I sometimes, the artwork actually, for one job, I wanted to be more hands-on. So my room, I have backdrop lighting. Literally, I do like everything. So I was like, I made the outfit, did my makeup, hair. I was like, okay, I can do this myself. Put the camera on. I have a nice little Canon T3i, an older version, but you know what? It does what it has to do for when I need it. And it's great to experiment with. Like, you know, music aside, we are in a pandemic. Anything that you can do for yourself, or like just learn to do, try it. Try things. You'll also be surprised about how much you'll retain, learn, and find new things you're good at that you didn't know you were even capable of.
That's really positive. Oh, now I want to try some things as well. My friends, remember, there are time for questions. Clearly, Blue Whale, you answered all of the questions possible. But aside from, like, you said you're working on your 3 EP, I assume there's going to be videos coming for that as well. What's it sounding like in TO as far as like when things might open up and when you might be able to do some bigger stuff outside?
So I was one of those people who were like, am I going to get this vaccine? Am I going to get this vaccine? And then I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being home. It's going on 2 years. It's a whole year and a half. I had some writing camps set up that were outside of Canada that I was supposed to go to, and other things that I just want to do. And I was like, inject me, give me all of the vaccines because I am getting out. And I was like, I think, what did you ask me what the sound is going to be like when things open up?
Yeah, well, like just what you're hearing in TO, like what are people potentially planning, if anything?
Yeah, I'm hearing of a lot of projects. Like the pandemic hasn't stopped a lot of artists, which is amazing. We need music to survive, and people have been delivering. So people just have a lot more things to talk about, and I feel like it's getting way more personal and emotional because so many people have gone through so many things during the pandemic. So there's so much relatability in all of the songs that I'm hearing now. And I think it gave people more time to actually research and hear different types of sounds that are on there. And I know a lot of people, Afrobeats was on its way up, but I feel like it's a little bit more now, Afrobeat / pop, because people are like understanding it more. They see the scene that's going on in Ghana and Africa and all of that. They're like, okay, let me dabble in this sound a little bit. So I feel like sounds are, getting more unique and maybe international sounding. So more worldly, which is great.
Well, I'm going to date myself here, but like, like high school in the 90s, you just listened to the radio. That's all there was. There was no net. Like anyone today, I was about to say kids today, anyone today can listen to anything from anywhere. And it's awesome. It's
anywhere.
Awesome.
Yes.
It's neat that you said that, like, and I agree. It hasn't stopped art. I have a show on CKCU here in Ottawa, and like, so I'm constantly playing whatever's new in town. And what I saw new in town this year was a whole lot of hip hop and R&B and Afrobeat. And I think it's because like the metalheads couldn't get together with their metal bands. I couldn't get together with my band. People who were at home studios, or at least like used to that kind of setup, were a lot more nimble. With what they were able to put out.
And I find too, a lot of the younger kids they're just like, oh, I like listen to everything. Let me see what this sounds like. Let me see what this sounds like. And they're like much more hands-on, and they're also not afraid to just experiment with, which is great. Yeah, they're like, I sound like this, I don't care. And then you get examples all over the place of people that just like, people aren't afraid to sound like who they are and experiment and sound silly, but to us listening come across like, okay, that sounds really unique. I've never heard anyone do that before. That's really cool. We don't control what type of music we like, just like we don't control what type of art comes out of us, right? So whatever it is you're making out there, friends, make it. Yes.
And don't be afraid to buy things for your home studio, as Blue has told us. Blue, this has been a wonderful conversation. Any last thoughts you'd like to leave for our audience?
I just like to say one thing. Music, any type of art, photography, videography, like anything that you want to do it. It's very possible. Very possible. I know there's a lot of people out there struggling because they may have lost their job or like barely making it by. It's one of those things where you can get creative. You have an iPhone, there's literally apps you can download, use your headphones, record music. SoundCloud used to be like huge just for finding like random stuff that you don't hear anywhere else. You could you could still be creative. You could still get your music out there. It doesn't always have to be on Amazon and Spotify and iTunes and up for sales. Like, you know, music, art is a form of release. Get your release, put your art out there. Like, there are 7 billion people plus in this world, and you're not the only one thinking what you're thinking. And, you know, your art is unique to you, but someone's going to look at it and be like, oh my God, and be wowed. It took me a long time to actually develop my sound, and I'm still working on it and actually like it, because I spent too many times comparing myself to other people. Now I'm like, no, you sound like this, you sound great, make your art. Do you like this song? Does this make you feel good? I'm like, yes. So I put out what makes me feel good and what best expresses me, and that's what I all encourage you guys to do. Don't worry about who's doing what over there and what over there, and then you'll slowly build on it. And the more you do it and do it for you, the more confidence comes with that.
You heard it here, folks. Art is beautiful, and Blue Whale suggests that you make it. My name is Joel from Folk Music Ontario. Thank you so much to Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Factor. Thank you, the Ontario Arts Council, Ontario Creates, and SoCan. And most of all, thank you to Blue Whale for joining us today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye, Joel. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.